record this yet. Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa from Gilda's Club Grand Rapids, and I'm happy to see you today. And we have with us Sue Gunnink, a licensed dietitian with Spectrum Health. And we're going to bring to you today a topic that's really important about eating well during, or before, during, and after any cancer treatment. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Sue, and we'll see you at the end. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Melissa, for that nice introduction. So like she said, I'm one of the dietitians at Lemmon-Holton Cancer Pavilion at Spectrum. And so we'll talk about that in a little bit further in the presentation. And just to disclose that they were reviewed by Lisa, and so you can see that her credentials and so forth. And that this program was developed by the cancer support community, and it's the content is independently and then outside the medical. Sorry, I just have to move this and reviewed by some experts. And that the final control, the CSC has final control of the content of the program and the support, and just that we really want to engage. We're really thankful for having Gilda's here locally, both in Grand Rapids and Lowell, and just to have that support throughout our community. So this is me, Sue, and you can see my contact information. Email is fine, or through my phone. That's my direct line. So if you did call that number and I wasn't at my desk, it would go into voicemail, but only I would hear the message. And we have both in-person and virtual appointments available. So whatever works well for you during this time of COVID, we're willing to work with you on that. And so it does, so I am a registered dietitian. I also have my CSO, which means I'm a certified specialist in oncology. And that I have no financial relationship or affiliations to disclose. All right, so we'll try to get into the nuts and bolts of this. And like Melissa said, if there's any questions that you guys have, individual needs, we're more than willing to meet with you, and we look forward to that opportunity. So some of the things that we wanted to cover today, we're just talking about managing those common eating concerns as you navigate through your cancer treatment. Some things that can help during and after treatment, also about cancer prevention. Some things about phytonutrients, which truly just means nutrients that come from plants and how they can help with cancer prevention. And then we'll talk about SMART survivorship plan, so moving forward. And then just why meeting with an oncology dietitian is so important through your cancer journey, and some helpful resources, and then questions and answers. We won't have in this session because it's a recording, but again, if you have questions for us, either reach out to me through that email or phone number, or Melissa Chu, Gilda's is a great resource as well. So what are some of the different things to think about? So, excuse me, before you start treatment, it is important to kind of have a plan of what your nutrition, how that may look for you. So just managing those problems that make eating difficult. So if you're getting chemotherapy, nausea may be a barrier for getting in the correct amount of calories and protein. So weight loss could occur, or inadequate hydration. So some of the different things we would help you navigate through. And that third point, where we talk about prevent weight loss, our goal through treatment, we usually say is plus or minus 5%. And so what that means is that we're trying to preserve those lean muscle stores through this cancer treatment. And then that really goes to that fourth point about strength. We're trying to really keep you to be able to do the things you want to do. I know fatigue can be a barrier sometimes through treatment, and so we're trying to help you with minimizing the fatigue as much as we can. So what I alluded to earlier, some of the side effects, nausea, also you could have GI side effects as far as like diarrhea or even sometimes constipation. With some chemotherapies, we'll see this, and sometimes from some of the medications can cause constipation. And also taste changes. You may hear the medical term dysgeusia for taste changes, and so that often will occur from the chemotherapy, but also sometimes from radiation. We'll see that depending on the region that the radiation is administered. And then again, that we want to maintain your body weight and muscle mass. The other thing is an important point to that third point about delays or breaks in treatment. We would like to be able to have you, if your radiation plan is for 6 weeks of radiation, we'd like you to be able to keep with that. If there's breaks in treatment, it's more effective if we don't have those breaks. And then, of course, minimize hospitalizations or totally avoid would be our goal. I think we're getting better and better at that. Just in my experience in oncology, I've been with Spectrum, it'll actually be 17 years this month, which is hard to believe. But and I've been in oncology most of my career. So I think back when I started practicing, I think we saw patients more in the hospital, but we're getting a lot better at preventing things and preventing patients to have to be admitted. And then the other thing too, so decreased appetite. So that can occur again, just, if you're not feeling well, then of course you're not going to have an appetite. So there's different things we can look at for that. Whether it's small frequent meals, we can look at an appetite stimulant. So that's a possibility. Often your medical oncologist can prescribe. Also, we work with our palliative medicine team. They're really good with symptom management as well. So after treatment, some of the different things, just managing again the side effects, the weight changes. So even though you're through treatment, you still can have side effects that occur. We usually say, like with radiation, even though you're done with treatment, it can be another 4 to 6 weeks while the treatment is still working. So, for instance, with our head and neck cancer patients, just because they're done with radiation does not mean that their taste changes will resolve, or dry mouth, or some of those other things we may have to help them navigate through. And then there can be other health conditions like heart disease or diabetes that, also is part of the picture for overall health that we may need to address. So we just really want to be on top of that. So some common side effects, we kind of talked about appetite changes already, constipation. So constipation, if, again, certain chemotherapies may make you more prone, or certain medications could make you more prone to constipation. So some of the things we'd want to address is your fluid intake, like how much fluid are you able to get throughout the day. A typical goal would be about 64 ounces or 8 cups of fluid throughout the day. Understanding that, is not for everyone. If you have, a gentleman that's 6'5", he's going to need more than 64 ounces in a day, or versus a small framed woman that's, she may not need as much as that. But again, looking, there's several factors to look at, but that's just kind of a general recommendation that we make. Diarrhea, so that also hydration is going to be really important too, that we replace those electrolytes that can be lost with multiple episodes of diarrhea. We typically say, or the definition of diarrhea is 2 or more loose stools in a day. So if we see that, then that's when we're recommending for each loose stool to replace with 1 cup of fluid to prevent dehydration. And that's where we would look at electrolyte replacement beverages, like a sports drink would be fine to do, not limiting your sodium intake. So if, you want to do a salty broth, that's fine to do, or pretzels, anything with visible salt on it is fine to do. And it's also a good reminder, sometimes people think fluid is just water, but we consider anything that becomes liquid at room temperature would also count into this category. So like today is going to be quite balmy, quite warm. So, like a popsicle would melt, and become a liquid, or Jello those would count into your fluid allotment as well. Dry mouth, or the medical term we think of as xerostomia. This can occur again from different medications, from the chemotherapy, can be from the radiation, again, site specific. So usually with our head neck cancer patients, they may have this more of the dry mouth where it feels like you have cotton in your mouth and you just can't get that out of your mouth. And so there's different mouth rinses that can be prescribed, or even just a very simple baking soda salt recipe that actually works very well. It's pretty straightforward. And so that is something we'd recommend as well. Fatigue, like I said, often we see as well, and that can be a side effect from treatment, so from radiation, or just if your counts are low with chemotherapy, so your white blood count is depleted, that definitely can lead to fatigue. Mouth sores, again, chemotherapy mostly, smell aversions, more from chemotherapy. So some of the different things: taste changes, weight loss, maintaining weight. So we'll go into that in more detail as we go. So, and I apologize, I think I talked a little bit about all these, but we'll get into more detail. So appetite changes. So the small frequent meals throughout the day. We also talk about, in addition to the small frequent meals, making sure you also get a protein source every time you eat, if you can. And that helps with that muscle, preserving that muscle. So if you can, like, aim for like 10 to 15 grams of protein. So to give you like a reference point, like an ounce of meat is 7 grams of protein, if that gives you a reference point. Keeping track of how you're eating and how that makes you feel. Sometimes it can be a little daunting for patients. I know, when the ins and outs, especially if you're coming for radiation 5 days a week, another task might be a little bit overwhelming. So that's where it's really good to have a support person. Often with my patients I work with, that support person will help kind of keep track of stuff for them. But it definitely can be a team effort. I think it just depends on how you're feeling. One week may be better than another. And just making sure, really that you are eating throughout the day. You can't, and that's part of when you meet with an oncology dietitian, we'll talk about what your current eating patterns are. So are you eating 3 meals, in the day, or is it just one large meal? And so that's where we'll kind of have the discussion of small frequent meals really will be important. The atmosphere that you're in. So now that some of the COVID restrictions are being lifted, I think that having that opportunity to eat with people that really can, a relaxed setting is really important. If you're not able to connect with people, because I understand with just some of the immune compromised, then maybe having some music that you like listening to. That can be very relaxing. And then just having easy food preparation, so you don't want to be undertaking a 5-course meal or something like that, keeping it pretty straightforward. And constipation, we kind of already talked about a little bit, but the fiber thing I did not address. So usually for fiber, the general recommendation is around 25 to 35 grams of fiber in a day. If you currently are eating like 5 to 10 grams of fiber a day, you wouldn't want to go from minimal fiber intake and jumping to 25 to 35. So it'd be a slow transition, maybe over a couple days or a week's time. And then some of the other things you can use, like prunes, I think we've known about for a while, like prunes and prune juice are usually pretty effective for constipation. Also hot beverages, so the temperature of the beverage can help move your bowels as well. Also, even caffeinated, they found that caffeine too can be a stimulant. We talked about the fluid intake before. Some of the other things too, along with constipation, could be gas production, and sometimes that's the site of the radiation. So the field of the radiation could impact your bowels, creating more gas production. And so that's where you may want to pause on those cruciferous vegetables. So that's where we're talking about like our broccoli or cauliflower. That would be part of it. And I see I froze, but we'll just pretend I'm still bouncing around there. Sorry about that. And then just exercise. We didn't address that before. That can help too with moving your bowels. Diarrhea. So we talked about fluid replacements being really important. So making sure for every, if more than 2 loose stools in a day considered diarrhea, then we need to replace that with 1 cup of fluid for each loose stool. But the other thing you can try with this first point is something essentially called the BRAT diet, where the B stands for banana, the R stands for white rice, the A for applesauce. It's the pectin in the applesauce, so that cooking down of the apple and that pectin that helps solidify the stool. And canned fruits, I mean, you can use, you just have to be careful there's no syrup in it. You want it to be in water. But then the T for the BRAT diet is toast, like white toast would be recommended. And oatmeal would be fine too. It has soluble fiber in it, so that can absorb that fluid, and that would be fine too. The fourth point there with the probiotics, so kefir is a liquid source of yogurt, and so that would be something to try as well. You do always want to touch base if you want to take like lactobacillus, so those probiotic supplements, you'd want to just make sure your a medical oncologist was okay with that before proceeding. Dry mouth, we talked about the medical term, remember, as being xerostomia. So that's where, sucking on a hard candy, sometimes chewing gum or having gum, sugar-free is what we'd recommend. You do have to be a little bit careful with the amount of sugar-free candies. So I've had a patient that was having like 20 to 25 sugar-free candies in a day and was having also the side effect of diarrhea. Well, typically the sugar replacement for those sugar-free candies is sorbitol, and sorbitol actually can cause diarrhea in large amounts, so you'd have to be cautious with that. And then of course, like dry foods, and most people aren't really even going to want to try those because they're kind of stick on your mouth, so you'd want to be careful with that. Okay. And then fatigue, like we said, that can definitely occur with your chemo and radiation. If you do have days that are better for you, maybe those are days where you can go garden if you have the energy. So that's sort of like cook in bulk on the days you have more energy, that would be fine to do. But it's just taking it easy. If you do need to take a nap one day, that's okay. But again, just taking it one day at a time. Making sure you have a schedule, eating schedule is important, even when you're not hungry, making sure that you can get that nutrition to help you through the treatment. Mouth sores, again, typically from chemotherapy, but also radiation could contribute to that too. Acidic foods, spicy foods could be an irritant. You want to keep things really soft and moist, cut things into small pieces, chew things well. Also, we talk about like extra sauces and gravies to kind of coat things. That might be soothing. And then that baking soda salt mouth rinse we talked about is really helpful. You can use it like every hour during your waking hours. A lot of times, patients will make up large batches at the beginning of the day, put it in the refrigerator and just keep it readily available that they can use it. And if you're having to travel back and forth, like I know I have one patient that I have one that traveled like 90 minutes there and back from treatment, and another one that was like 2 hours. And so they were trying to strategize together like how to do the mouth rinses. And so if you just take like water, like the 16-ounce water bottle, and make up those with that baking soda salt mouth rinse, and they're able to do that frequently. And that was really effective for the mouth sores and also for the dry mouth. Nausea and vomiting, so small amounts at 1 to 2 hours, really bland. And I don't think most people desire anything spicy at that point or high fat, greasy. But you think of like soda crackers or broth, toast, keeping it real bland. If it proceeds where, it's going now 24 hours to 48 hours, you definitely want to reach out to your healthcare team, either looking at if different anti-nausea medication. They may need you to come in for IV hydration. It just depends, but we definitely want to stay on top of it. They may want you to weigh yourself like for a couple mornings just to see if you're losing more than a couple pounds in a day. That could be a point of concern, and so we'd want you to get that addressed as well. Smell aversion. So, you know, you walk into the kitchen and you think, oh goodness, that is a strong smell. So either, you know, having a loved one or a neighbor, maybe your church, prepare some food for you so you're not having to have that aroma. That might be a trigger. Or looking at, you know, things that are cold or room temperature, those tend to have less of a strong smell to them. You could open a window, keep a fan going. So there's a lot of different things, light a candle. There's different strategies for that as well. Taste changes. So if you're finding that things have no taste, you could try to add some spices or a flavor enhancer to help with that. We usually say, like, if you're finding that things are really bitter, then if you add something sweet, that should kind of bring it to the middle. And just the opposite of that, if you find things that are really sweet, if you add something that's more bitter, that again can kind of bring it your taste into the middle. So they add some strategies there, like honey or maple syrup. Thing is too, if you have metallic tastes in your mouth, one of the things too, instead of using traditional silverware, you could try plastic utensils to see if that would help too. Even when you're in the hospital, you can ask for plastic. They can definitely do that for you and accommodate that request. And if you are experiencing that weight loss, just trying to make sure we add to food. So if you find foods, and that's something that the oncology dietitian will help you navigate. So we'll look again at your eating patterns, we'll look at the foods that you do well with, and we'll look at ways that we can add to those foods. So for instance, like if you do okay with scrambled eggs, we could see about adding some cheese to your eggs. Or if oatmeal is going okay for you, you know, how are you preparing that oatmeal? Are you making it with water? Are you making it with milk? So we'd suggest in making it with milk, if you could, even making it with whole milk. You know, so just those small changes can really add to the calories that you need. And here's some other ideas. When you think of with that oatmeal example, so we talked about making it with milk, but you could add some peanut butter. We recommend smooth versus crunchy peanut butter, just for digestive reasons. You could try dried fruit, granola, so you can see all those different suggestions. Or again, if you're having a soup, you could again, you know, add milk or heavy whipping or heavy cream, excuse me, or oil. Like a tablespoon of oil adds about an extra 100 calories, so that would be a quick fix if you wanted to do that as well. So there's a lot of different options that we can help you work through. And then for weight gain, this can occur through some cancers, typically the hormonal base. So maybe with breast or prostate cancer, we may see this. So that's again where the oncology dietitian could help you with strategizing to how can we avoid that. So again, kind of the flip side for the weight loss, the weight gain then is avoiding those higher calorie foods or creamy sauces. The beverages that you drink, you'd want to, you know, select water versus a sweetened beverage. So there's you know, staying active. Sometimes writing things down will help you just stay focused on what you need to help with that weight gain. And just long term, not looking too far ahead, but taking one day at a time. Give yourself grace through this period that, you know, we're here as a team to support you. The medical community, as well as your family and friends. Also, Gilda's Club, of course, is a great support. I know many of my patients have found the support groups very beneficial through their cancer journey. And then just take advantage of the good days. Like we talked about earlier, if you have more energy, then, you know, if you can cook ahead, you can do that. If there's a favorite activity you like to do, maybe do that. But just, again, give yourself grace through this time. Some of the benefits. So if you're choosing good nutrition through this, again, it can help with strength and also maintaining your weight. Helps minimize those side effects if we can. Recovery is important through this, as well as healing. So if you, some of the patients will maybe have surgery up front and then start chemotherapy or radiation, or it could be flipped where they have surgery initially and then maybe have maybe chemotherapy or radiation or both. And so again, we want to help with healing through that period. And just reducing the risk of recurrence is going to be important as well. So some of those recommendations are in line, or they are in line with the American Institute for Cancer Research or the American Cancer Society. We talk about maintaining a healthy body weight. So that's where it's important that we don't partake in an extreme diet where we see like yo-yo effect of weight. We want you to find a healthy body weight and maintain that. Physical activity is really important, just again for energy, but also muscle and even mental health is really key. We always say eat the color of the rainbow, and that's the darker in color, the more phytochemicals. Remember, we use that word or phytonutrient at the beginning of the presentation. The more cancer preventers that it has in there. So as we go into, in June, I always think of strawberry season and we get into blueberries. West Michigan, I think we're really fortunate. We have a lot of great produce readily, farmers markets at hand. Alcohol, we really talk about limiting. We usually say no more than one drink for women per day, and for men too. There are certain cancers where we actually talk about omitting it from your diet. And not to necessarily use supplements. Like some people feel like they need to take a multivitamin or other, like vitamin C or other micronutrients to act as cancer prevention. Really, the only things we discuss, like for bone health, or maybe looking at vitamin D and calcium. And so that again would be a discussion you could have with your oncology dietitian to see what may be needed. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. If you're anemic, then we may need to do iron, or I mean, there are again some extenuating circumstances. So that's where a different supplement may be needed. And to, I guess I kind of addressed this a little bit ago, but we'll just review quick. So again, those phytonutrients, so we think of phyto meaning plant, cancer prevention, antioxidants, those help against would be those that prevent or delay the damage of our cells. And they give you some good examples. So again, grapes or blueberries would be, we think of anti-inflammatory, reduce that inflammation. Also, those cruciferous vegetables are really good for both health and heart risk, also diabetes. I mean, you can't go wrong. So those are encouraged. And now we're going to that SMART acronym. So this is kind of a neat tool to help you remember. So SMART, the S stands for specific, so setting specific goals that can be achieved. If we try to take on too much, then the likelihood of us accomplishing any of them is very minimal. So we usually say in counseling that if you pick one goal, and it usually takes about 6 weeks to become a habit. So for instance, if it's increasing your vegetable intake from 1 serving a day to 3 servings a day over the next week, that might be an example. And so measurable, so I guess I kind of jumped ahead. The M means measurable, but creating goals that are measurable, attainable. So again, if if you're saying like if you're currently eating 1 serving of vegetable a day and you set your goal for 5 servings, because the recommendation is 4 to 5 servings of vegetables a day. So if you go from 1 to 5, that might not be realistic for you. So we definitely want something that we can grab hold of. Being realistic again, looking at where you are in your cancer journey. You may need to look at, going from 1 to 2 servings, or again, just making sure it's something that you can do and feel encouraged by. And then timely. It's good to have like within a week or a month, that helps keep you accountable. And just to further explain what that CSO stands for, so it's a board certified specialist in oncology nutrition. You have had to have been a dietitian for at least 2 years and have put in 1,500 hours with cancer patients. And then you sit for an examination that every 5 years we recertify. And so once you pass that examination, that's put out by our academy. So for registered dietitians, after you pass that exam, then you can use that credential CSO. And then we have some lovely recipes that you can kind of look through, and we'll, I think, provide the links from what I can remember to kind of show you, demonstrate how to do these. So there's some fun ones, especially in the summer weather. I think these would be great to try.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Sue. These recipes really do look good. Some of them look like you could almost freeze them and make little popsicles out of them, you
It's a
know?
great idea.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
for today especially, huh?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much. What important information this is, and just so rich in what, giving people some tools in order to help manage their treatment and their life, really, before and after all of their treatment. So really important topic to discuss. We're really grateful for you to be patient with, sorry, your screen froze. It's a great picture, though, of you. And we're just so grateful for you doing the initial uh, class and then being willing to do this recording so that we can reach more people. Really appreciate that. And this partnership we have with Spectrum Health and with your office, just really grateful.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
yeah. And for all of you who are watching, we want you to know that, like Sue said, we'd love to hear questions from you, and we can help you get connected with Sue, or get some of these recipes. We will have listed on our website all of um, all of this as a recording, and so you can access it as many times as you'd like. If there was something that you didn't quite get the first time through, you can go back through it. We're hoping to have this PowerPoint as a PDF available to you also, and then some of the links to a live demonstration of some of the recipes on here. If you have any questions, you can always call us at Gilda's Club 453-8300. We're open for phone calls and virtual program. And we're on the phones from 9 until about 6. And if you want to join one of our virtual programs, you can either email us, call us, or send us a message on Facebook and we'll get back to you. So I think that's about it. I hope that everyone is doing well, and thank you for watching this. And Sue, thank you so much. We're so grateful. Anything else that I forgot that you want to say?
No, you did a great job. Thank you again.
Great. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.